What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and here we go again with the Milinkovic-Savić links, and not just the Savic links, just the midfield link already. And I kind of refuse to talk about transfers already, but it's very evident at this point that we lack a midfielder, that we need quality in midfield to get out of the current situation in terms of the way we are setting up, because we can switch formation, but that means you're going to need to trust coal miners, which I don't think anyone does, or you're going to need to hope Atsic and Miretti take massive leaps in terms of ability, quality, game management, and we don't need a midfielder. But that situation is not happening right now because Miretti is injured. Atsic, well, is just playing, and Colt Miners actually is playing extremely poorly. So that means January is going to be big, and I wouldn't be shocked if we are getting linked with midfielders from, let's say, midway October already, start of November, until the January transfer window, because it feels very, very obvious that if we're going to do something, it's going to be the midfielder in January. And the Milinkovic-Savić links are just not going away, and that's what I want to talk about. But before we get into it, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, because there's also an update on Andrea Agnelli and Arriva Bene, and it kind of illustrates again how weak the club ownership is in these situations. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Okay, so midfield help in January. In the summer, I think the conclusion from everyone were 2 points. One, that backline is poor, and it is poor. And two, they really need to spend that money for an attack when we might need help in midfield. We need help at the back. We need definitely help in midfield purely based on numbers. McKennie, I forgot about McKennie in my intro. Another thing that is not going to move the needle in my opinion. Also a free agent, so you cannot build on that as well. We are struggling midfield. And this is not like you can like Locatelli or Thuram, whatever. Right now, it's not really about quality. It's about numbers. And that's on Tudor. You know, if he adds another midfielder and we still get overrun, maybe we can start talking, well, the quality is just that poor. But I refuse to believe that when it happens against clubs like Verona. I'm sorry. So we need in midfield an extra body. He's trying out Colt Miners, obviously, in a 2, and he's not responding. Actually, he's responding, and the response is fail. You know, a failed response. Then you have Atsic, who came in, I think plays decent at this moment in time, but is hot and cold. And it's not a knock on him. He's young. This is new, and he's get thrown in there. It's going to be hot and cold, you know. And we are talking about having a successful season. That's one option. The other option is Miretti, who's been injured, has more experience, but we've not seen him. And then again, do you want to play him in that position? And then you have McKennie, who is a free agent, and we're all assuming he's not going to sign a new deal. And to be honest, in midfield, he's not the difference maker. Maybe he's a player who can add stability, who can add, you know, some legs into the midfield, does the dirty work, whatever, etc. Maybe that's something we should be, you know, giving a go in these next couple of weeks. However, the Savic links are not going away. He's a free agent in 26, and he might end up leaving in January already, because apparently there are some rumblings, even with the coach, with Inzaghi, and they want to offload certain players, and etc. Also, he wants to join back, or he wants to come back to European football. Now, for me, the quality is undeniable. I still like Savic as a player, even at Al Hilal. I've seen at the Club World Cup. He can play. He comes in. He's probably our best midfielder still. Is that sad? You tell me if that's sad, a sad reality, but is the reality. And in Serie A, he will do well. I have no doubt about that. However, we're talking about a player 30 years old. I think he will be 31. A lot of money. Obviously not the Al Hilal money, but he's not going to come play for us for 2.5 million. You know, you're going to need to pay him a significant amount of money. Isn't that a situation that we should be avoiding as a club? Even though I believe we need midfield help, because McKennie's a free agent. You know, in an ideal situation, you sell him and get some money in January for him, and you make do with what you have. But even then, you cannot build on him because, well, you're trying to offload him. You don't want to keep him. Locatelli, might be on his last legs at this club in terms of the summer. Koopmeiners definitely is. And Mimreti and Atsic, it's unknown. So if you want to have a good season, and let's say in January you're still on course to have a good season, will the club refuse to pounce on a Savic or any other midfielder? I'm not so sure about that. They might panic. They might do something crazy. They might overpay for any player. But I think it's very obvious right now that if we're going to do something in January, bar any insane long-term injuries for the key player, it's going to be the midfield. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. In other news, Nedved, Agnelli, Arrivabene, they all found a deal. Cherubini, like they all agreed on a deal to close the cases, the investigations. They got banned for one. I don't care how long they got banned. Like that's not really the point right here. I have 2 points. 1 point, Agnelli's not coming back, and we should close that chapter. He made that very obvious in his statements. He's not even living in Torino. He's living in Amsterdam. He's CEO of other companies. He's completely out of it. And actually, with that deal, I think they just outplayed him and they told him. And I think that was more of a statement of do not come back. It's done. But that's not really what I talk about because that was always fantasy that Agnelli came back and he's going to buy the club with investment from this, and that. Forget about it. What I do want to talk about is Arrivabene. Remember when we got deducted points? 2 points deductions were because Arrivabene. And right now, today, the case was no suspension at all for Arrivabene, which means we got deducted 2 points for fun at the time. And we're not going to get those 2 points back. We're not going to get refunded anything. In a real scenario, a real club comes out tomorrow with the statement and says, this ain't it. A club fights back and they will go to court and say, you're going to give us, obviously not the 2 points back, but you're going to repay us. This is not it. Even if it's impossible to get paid or get the points back, it's the idea of what the hell is happening right now. You're just deducting points, fining us. We also got fined because of Arrivabene. And in the end, he's not guilty, even though the entire thing was a farce with transfer market valuation. Like, it's a joke to begin with, but the club allowed it, Alcon allowed it, and he will allow this again. That's why I've always said the club from top to bottom is weak. When Tudor needs to come out and talk about the refereeing and the calendar, I'm like, where is the club? Where is the club? If it happens one more time that Tudor needs to come out and talk about refereeing and all this crap, I will lose it. Because that's a thing that Chiellini or whoever, Modest, I don't care, needs to come in front of the camera and talk about it and let the coach focus on coaching. That's a club issue to put pressure on, the ref in terms of you made bad decisions. Are you going to answer us? Or the league to say, are you just going to allow this to keep happening week in, week out? That shouldn't be the coach's thing, because at one point people will use that as an excuse to not win games, or use that as an excuse to say, well, Tudor, you're crap because you're making excuses every single week, where it's like, maybe they're valid excuses. It's the wrong messenger. It should be the club who would be stepping up, But that's one of those things. At the time, the last 5 years, it feels like, maybe not this time as much. I think there's more presence of the board, whatever, but I don't think still to the extent it should be, in my opinion. And maybe it will improve. It has improved the last couple of months, obviously. But they need to come from far, because, well, the last couple of seasons, the board was just not there. It was like coach and player figure it out, and we will see at the end of the season, which obviously is not how it works. Not even in a daily job, it's always the people at the top who speak and not the employees who do the day-to-day jobs. Like, that's not their package, in my opinion. But anyways, in the comments, let me know what you think about the Savic links, or just a midfielder in general in January. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you guys later today. Ciao.